Hey, Trey, Wingo back with another bonus edition of this week's Chop Shop with my longtime work wife, Mark Schlereth, because besides the games, the season is over for 18 teams, and now we're talking about the coaching carousel and what's going on. At the taping of this, we have 6 openings. You never know when that sneaky fastball comes out of nowhere and you find a 7th or an 8th. But right now, we have 6 head coaching vacancies and also some GM vacancies. And I want to start with the GM vacancy first because Denver, I thought, did something very interesting. When I first read this, that John Elway was no longer going to be the GM. He's going to elevate himself and be over the GM, but not be the GM. I was like, wait a minute, let me get this straight. You're relieved of your GM duties, and you're going to give yourself a raise and a title and have more authority and less work. I mean, like, that's the ultimate American flex, is it not? I mean, good for John Elway if that's the way it went down, but I think you have a different perspective on it.
Yeah, obviously you're right. It is the ultimate flex, right?
I mean, do it if you can.
You guys call me when you need me, and I'm going to just kind of consult, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that's a great idea. Oh, and by the way, I have ultimate hiring power, according to what we're hearing.
Right. I think here's kind of my take on it. This organization had great success when John took over and got Peyton Manning to come here. And I'll give him all the credit in the world for getting Peyton Manning to come here.
There is the issue, right?
Okay. But Peyton Manning, and I know this because I live in Denver and I watched it happen. Overnight, Peyton Manning changed the culture of this organization.
Yeah.
And from a free agent standpoint, every free agent wanted to come to Denver. Not because John Elway was running things, because Peyton Manning was here and you knew you had a chance to win a championship. Correct. And now I'll give you credit. John got them all signed. You know, the Keith Talibs of the world, the TJ Wards of the world. DeMarcus Ware, Darren Stewart. Right. Yeah. So
Emmanuel Sanders.
Yes, there's a lot that went down there, but a lot of that had to do with 18. I mean, let's not fool ourselves, right? 18's a unicorn.
Yeah, I do love about that, our friend Adam Schefter, we love Adam, right? His tweet about this was, per source, John Elway is doing this. And then the last line of the tweet was, Elway did lead them to a Super Bowl during his time and 100 wins. I was like, okay, but I think what you just said made more sense. I think, like, Peyton and the defense led him to all those things, but him throwing that tweet in, there's like, I think I know where I'm getting this from, right? That was a little breadcrumb to tell us where the information comes from.
Yeah. So, you go to the first pick the first guy you ever picked, Von Miller, first round draft choice. Right. And, up until like week 14, he was the only first round draft pick in the 10, 11 years that John Elway's been making first round draft picks. They got a second contract.
Yep.
That is a huge failure. Now, Garrett Bowles, after 3 years of Drek,
unbelievable.
What he's done is been absolutely amazing. I mean, amazing. So, tip of the hat. I never thought I wouldn't have had the patience to do it. Tip of the hat. He's been great. But the draft record, second rounder, it's been abysmal, Trey. Absolutely abysmal. And Joe Ellis understands that. You know, you've picked the coaches, you've made the draft picks, you've done this, you've done that. And first time in the history of the Broncos, since Pat Bullen owned the Broncos, that they've been this abysmal. They have gotten, as a matter of fact, they have gotten to the point where this is the first time since 1983. Last year, I was told through a league source, very high up league source.
Per source.
Yes. I don't want to give the name away, but very high up league source that said to me, the first time since Mr. Bullen owned the Broncos in 83 where we are not guaranteed an afternoon rating, putting the Broncos on the 425 slot.
Man, that tells you something.
Okay. Just think about this. 5-11, 6-10, 7-9, 5-11. It's not good enough. And I think Joe Ellis, who's the president, who has been tasked with carrying out Mr. Bullen's wishes, sat down with John and said, dude, it's not working. You and Matt Russell being the brain trusts of our scouting department, it ain't working. That ain't
it, boss.
Yeah, so you can either quit or you can move yourself upstairs onto a cushy office, and we are going to hire a GM, and we're going to revamp our scouting department, and we need to fix this thing because we cannot keep going. Hey, we're just a player. We're just a Joe Flacco away. You're not. Your roster, and I follow this team very closely, your roster is about 25 deep. It's not good enough. And that's, you can be mad at me for the honest truth, but that's a direct reflection on the job that he has done from the draft and building this team through free agency. It hasn't been good enough. And so I think there was a lot of that powwow that went down and said, we're changing things. You can either be on board with the change or, you know what, hasta la vista.
Right. So, hey, live your best life, John. I guess that's what we're saying. But now we have 6 head coaching openings, and a lot of people are saying, well, look at that Jacksonville job. They're going to get Trevor Lawrence, all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of money there. That's a really good job. I need to, first of all, anybody that's going to take a job that has the opportunity, because they're so rare, there's only 32 of them, and every 2 or 3 years you turn over half the league. That's just the way it goes. Okay. So they're going to jump at any opportunity. Jacksonville, I think, is interesting, but look, if history has told us nothing, you cannot just say, oh, Trevor Lawrence is going to be this. Let's just do a little exercise here. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he's not going to be great, but I can't guarantee that he's going to be great. 2012, we had Andrew Luck and RG3 go 1-2. RG3 is now a backup. Andrew Luck retired. Ryan Tannehill was the 3rd quarterback taken in that first round, and he's playing on a division winner. He has the career right now. And Russell Wilson, that was taken in the 3rd round. 2013, I think, was the E.J. Manuel year. He was the first quarterback taken. That didn't work. The second quarterback taken that year was Geno Smith. That didn't work. 2014, the first quarterback taken was Blake Bortles. That didn't work. The second quarterback was Johnny Manziel. I believe you know how that went. The point I'm trying to make is everybody wants to anoint somebody before the draft, and Trevor Lawrence could very well be that guy. But you have absolutely no idea at this point. So I don't think that job is as attractive because of Trevor Lawrence as everyone else seems to think it is.
I would 100% agree with you. I cut my teeth in this league with Washington. We weren't the Washington football team back then, but I cut my teeth in Washington. Joe Gibbs was the head coach, and he had a philosophy with Bobby Beathard, who drafted me. His philosophy was, I would much rather trade away an unknown commodity for a known commodity. I want guys that I know can play. And let me just tell you this. Walking into this league, you see great players that had unbelievable college careers that piss down their legs when they get in the NFL. Yep. And you see very, average athletes or just good college players come in and become superstars at the next level. Some guys get it. And I really think it's more, I think everybody's physically really gifted, Trey. I really think it has to do with how fast you can process information and make the right decisions. So it really becomes far more of a neck up ball game than it is in college. And I'm with you. I don't hey, Trevor Lawrence, I'm sure he's a great kid. I'm sure he's super smart. He's unbelievably athletic. He's had an unbelievable college career. I have no idea. Yeah. I don't. And nobody really does. So you have a gut feeling that a guy's going to be good. You hope that a guy's going to be good. But to be really good in this league, man, it is really hard to come in with that pressure on you as a quarterback and say, okay, now we've got a really bad culture. The culture, hey, man, I've called games in Jacksonville the last couple of years. That culture is atrocious. I mean, you talk about backstabbing and mistrust between the front office and the scouting department and the coaching staff and the players. It is awful. And it has been awful for a while. And now all of a sudden I'm going to lump this on one kid, go, come be the savior.
Fix it.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? We've been around for a long time and we really screwed it up, but you can fix it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, see, to me, that's why without question, the most attractive job is LA, the Chargers.
Oh, yes.
Herbert just broke the record. I mean, you can say what you want. I get it's only one season, and we've had Wentz have one good season and Goff had one good season. But I really like Herbert. You have Keenan Allen. You have Austin Eckler. You have Derwin James, hopefully healthy. You have Bosa, you have Ingram, you have Hunter Henry. To me, the only flaw with the Chargers job is you got to play the Chiefs twice. I mean, I can't think of another problem stepping into that situation. Granted, the Chargers are a weird franchise. They've always sort of been the second act in Southern California. We all remember the 2010 season where they had the number one offense and the number one defense and still didn't make the playoffs, which is almost impossible. But I think walking into that team as it's presently constructed, there's no question that's the best job.
I 100% agree with you. Herbert, and I had a Charger game middle of the season against the Raiders, and watching and studying his film, dude, the things he did, the way he threw the ball, the poise that he had, and his understanding of where he wanted to go, the understanding of leverage, the understanding of coverage, they did a phenomenal job. I thought maybe Anthony Lynn was going to be safe simply because they did a phenomenal job on the offensive side of the ball. Hey, listen, their defense broke down because of injuries and everything else. And, Gus Bradley obviously is going to be gone. I wouldn't be surprised to see him reunite with John Gruden in Vegas.
Well, it depends on what depends on what cap Gruden's wearing, whether it's the cap or the Vegas cap.
Yeah, the Vegas cap. But I thought maybe that was going to be good enough. But, it's crazy because we just talked about John Elway, and you talk about this division, and everybody says, well, what's it going to take to get Denver to the next level, get them back in the conversation, at least being number 2 to Kansas City. And I'm like, think about this. You tell me, because you're the history buff. When did anybody have the 4th best quarterback in their division and consistently compete within their division for a playoff spot?
0 times.
Because you got Mahomes, you got Derek Carr, and you got Herbert. Drew Lock or whoever else they bring in, if they're going to bring in some competition, is the 4th best quarterback in that division. Like, you've got a huge rebuilding job to do in Denver. This next GM, hey, listen, it's not like Global Jim. We're better than you, and we know it. No, this is Vince Vaughn. This is hey, our gym sucks. Come on in. That's what you're walking into.
Yeah, and that's the Jets' job is also open. And the problem I have with the Jets, look, Sam Darnold hasn't been great, but I believe he's good enough. And to me, if you're the Jets and either you try and move up to 1 and make a trade with Jacksonville or go for Justin Fields or Zach Wilson, you're just doing the same thing over again. You're stuck in the same cycle of, well, we're going to throw – it's like that old commercial. Just throw money at it. That'll fix the problem. Right. If you don't address the things that have held Sam Darnold back, like competent play calling, like competent perimeter players, these things are going to keep repeating themselves. So when I hear people say, oh, should we trade Sam Darnold? I'm like, you never gave him a chance. Like, Sam Darnold has never had a chance with that organization. Give the kid a chance before you realize whether or not what you do or don't have based on what somebody else may do, which is very, very – look, I just went through 2015. The first 2 picks were Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota, backups. 2016, we don't know what's going to happen with Carson Wentz. Jared Goff has had 1 good season, and there are concerns about him going forward. 2017, the first quarterback was Mitchell Trubisky. Yeah.
Paxton Lynch is on a couch somewhere playing video games.
Thank you. Exactly. Look, Mahomes, Watson, absolutely tremendous. And in 2018, I think you can say they hit with Josh Allen and hit with Lamar Jackson and kind of hit with Baker Mayfield. I mean, they're in the playoffs. I get it, but they're not there because of Baker Mayfield. They're because they play defense and run the football. They tried the Baker thing and they were like, yeah, I don't know.
What's really hard for a team like the Jets, for instance, or just about any team, is you want to make that big splash pick. You want to make that big splash quarterback pick. And a couple things have happened with the rookie wage scale, which I was firmly against. As you know, we worked together for a long time. I thought it was the dumbest idea ever. I talked to the PA about it. I said, you guys are foolish to do this. Like the owners, it's the bar I used to hang out in college when I was when I come home for the summer times in Alaska, called Chilkoot Charlie's, and their motto was, where we cheat the other guy and pass the savings on to you. So you think the owners? I said to the PA, I go, so you think the owners are going to save money on the rookies and then evenly distribute the money saved to the veteran players? Okay. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. right? Like
No
you
way.
can't be this. You can't. They didn't become billionaires because they were altruistic. You know what? We think everybody should make. Come on, give me a break. So, I think the hard thing is, like, it's easy to take a quarterback or a name in that first round and get everybody excited about that name, like it's going to change your franchise, and just keep kicking the can down the road and never truly addressing the rest of your football team. Our team sucks. I think the best thing the Jets could do would to trade that number 2 pick away for somebody who's desperate for Fields or whatever, and accumulate as many picks as you can and try to bolster your roster. And like you said, put some players around Sam Darnold. Now, they've had some players. I just covered a guy named Robbie Anderson who had a 1,000-yard season. He couldn't play for the Jets, but damn, he's really good in Carolina.
Right? Those are the mistakes we're talking about. So if you just replace the quarterback and you don't fix all those other issues, you're going to be in the same place. But there are 2 teams that have head coaches that I think are going to have to think about this. And that's head coaching vacancies, by the way. That's Detroit and Atlanta. At what point, what do you move on from in Detroit, or when do you think about it in terms of Matthew Stafford and Matt Ryan? Matt Ryan is former MVP in this league, and Matthew Stafford, who a couple years ago was playing on an MVP level until he hurt his hand late in the season. To me, I think Matthew Stafford still has a lot to bring to an organization, and I know you thought so in watching that game, even though they didn't play very well against the Bucs. The Matt Ryan thing is interesting, though. We're talking about the 2008 draft, and we're going to go into the 2021 season. If you're Atlanta, if you're Detroit, when is that line of demarcation for the new front office and head coach to say, we need to think about this?
Yeah. I mean, I understand that the way guys are playing late in their careers right now, Matthew Stafford to me would be a cornerstone piece of the franchise.
I agree. I totally agree.
I
think the best thing for him may be to leave Detroit and go somewhere else. But I'm not giving up on Stafford. I've seen too much good from him over the years, and you think about it, there have been 2 unbelievable players over the last 40 years, for the 30 years for the Lions, and they've gotten no reward for being loyal to those organizations. That's Barry Sanders, first ballot Hall of Famer, and Matthew Stafford, who I think will go to the Hall of Fame. I think he will. He's just played on a lousy team and a lousy franchise for a long time. Those 2 players have gotten the short end of the organization that they played for.
There's no question about it. It's funny. I'm just having a conversation with Bruce Arians a couple of weeks ago when I'm calling the Tampa game, and I'm a huge Stafford fan because I think he's a great player.
Absolutely.
And Bruce Arians goes, one of the only quarterbacks I actually walk out and watch warm up, Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
He goes, he's a top 4 or 5 quarterback in the league for me. And
for people that don't understand Bruce Arians' background, I mean, his basic before he became a head coach was the quarterback whisperer. Whether it was, Peyton Manning,
Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning,
Andrew Luck, Ben Roethlisberger. This was his MO, and he got the best years out of Carson Palmer in Arizona. And certainly, it looks like all the concerns about the Brady deep ball over the last few weeks have been fixed.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a guy that just really understands the game. I think you would be foolish in Detroit. I think there's so many other things that you need to address within your organization from a cultural standpoint and a personnel standpoint. I mean, their defense, like it was atrocious. Heck, it was atrocious last week. I mean, defense between Minnesota and Detroit was like optional. Defense. It was like watching a Big 12 game back in the day, right? So it was awful. But Matthew Stafford, I will say that Matt Ryan is interesting to me, though, right? Like, he's been around for a long time. He's still playing at a really high level. I just feel like there is this gravitational pull coming out of San Francisco, and like it'll be really interesting because I think that Kyle Shanahan would jump at that opportunity, and then you move. You'd obviously move Garoppolo or whatever, but it'll just be really interesting to see exactly what Atlanta does with that.
To that point, by the math and the way the contract was structured for Garoppolo, they can move on from that thing easily. I think the dead cap hit is under $3 million, where we're talking north of 40 or 50, I think, if the Eagles try to move on from Carson Wentz and his deal. You're absolutely right. Kyle Shanahan knows how to put Matt Ryan in a system that works. That's That's the beauty of this. Like we're focused on the playoffs for obvious reasons, and we're going to get to a Super Bowl in Tampa. But for 18 teams, they're already talking about next year. And like, to me, March Madness over the last 5 years hasn't been the NCAA tournament. It's been all the crazy shit that goes down when the league year starts in March. And the things you're talking about right there will be popping for all these teams until that league year begins in early March.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, it's always something that always resonated with me that you say all the time on NFL Live back in our days at ESPN. You'd say there's the preseason.
Correct.
There's the regular season.
Correct.
There's the procurement season, right?
Yeah, the postseason and the player procurement season.
Yeah, the postseason was 3, and the player procurement season.
We have 4 seasons.
I tell you what. Kudos to the NFL because they have absolutely captured the calendar year, and it is must-see television. And I don't know that the player procurement stage of the season isn't one of the most compelling stages right now.
No question. I mean, look, I feel bad for the draft this year because I'm not doing it, but like, there's no way it's going to hit the numbers. I mean, we had 56 million people watch. So I'm going to see how the spin control is. It'll still be a very highly televised event. It just won't be the thing in the middle of a crisis where nobody else had anything to watch. I mean, that's sort of the way it goes. So,
well,
all right, we'll see what happens.
I guarantee you one guy who's not watching the network without you on it. That's me. I will watch draft somewhere else.
Well, that's very nice of you to say. I appreciate that.
Well, you're my
Maybe I will too. Maybe I will too. Who knows? All right. So listen, that'll do it for this episode. But again, we have a bonus episode on the playoffs. We're going to drop that, I think, on Friday. That'll be fun. So hang tight, and I'll talk to you in 4 days.
Okay.
All right. Good.